Today on the Implicit Show, we've got a special guest. We're going to talk all about spirituality. And we're going to get into some subjects that maybe you don't hear too much about, and I'm super excited about it, so stick around. Tapping into the true potential of the human spirit. This is Humanity Empowered. This is the Implicit Show. Hello, and welcome to the Implicit Show. My name is Brendan Way. I'm your host today, and I hope you guys are having a great week. I know I'm having a great week. It's Thursday. This is usually Implicit Day for us. This is the day where we get together and we make some work happen and we get all excited about things. So I'm super excited. And our guest today, her name is Rhonda Smith, and I connected with her through Justin, who is another guest on the show who you guys know, and he also does his podcast called Growth Now Movement. And he highly suggested Rhonda. He said he hyped her up. He's like, you're gonna relate to her, you're gonna love her story. You guys are gonna have a great chat. So I'm really excited about this. Rhonda, I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. So my name is Rhonda Smith. I am the founder of Cosmic Smith and Cosmic Smith Radio. So I have my own podcast too, where we share interesting conversation about the road to consciousness and the road to expansion. I don't want to say ascension, but expansion. And we talk about really edgy, different kind of healing and topics.
That's cool. So I'd love to hear about your story, your life. What got you into this stuff? What really sparked your interest and got you to where you are today?
So I really had never had a connection to the divine that I knew of, that I could connect with my whole life. So I was in search of connection, but the way I had known to connect spiritually was through some type of religion. And that never really seemed to work for me. I never really got it. And I had a path of like really challenging lessons. I feel like this lifetime for me has really been learning what not to do and then figuring out how to find my way back out of it. So after having a huge career in Chicago, making six figures, which at that time was really important to me. I was really all about stuff and having and consumerism and, really living a life that was way too large for really even what I was making. And never really was happy. Got married just to be a missus and found myself just miserable. I ended up really spiraling down. Now I've had lots of times hitting rock bottom in my life and found that, that it was just getting worse and worse and worse. So when the economy crashed, I ended up becoming a junkie and really stepping away from my life. So I had a 4.5-year meth habit, and which is incredible. Tried to commit suicide twice during that time, and unsuccessfully. Really, I'm starting to understand both sides of myself and like what was causing that, and really understanding my relationship with love and addiction. And I really believe that relationship and our spiritual relationship is this really unhealthy codependent relationship in the way that we do love now. So really figuring that out and finding it out for myself. And then one night in a hotel room, pretty close to being homeless, I screamed in the mirror for God to help me, not really knowing what that meant. And the next day I woke up with this feeling of oneness, connection that I had never looked for before. So I threw my drugs in a garbage can and I drove back home to my family, and I began the journey of self and purpose and love, true love, and having a relationship with myself, and starting a business and becoming a coach, and then going into shamanic work with plant medicine, and really going deep and dark into the things that I do. And now that I'm kind of through the forest and on the other side, I share this healing with people, and I'm an integration coach. So I take people into shamanic ceremony and I coach them before and after, as they heal really big things or step into really, you can achieve your highest self through this medicine. You can realize it, you can feel it. So it's really beautiful medicine. So that's kind of what led me to on this path of spirituality, a person that had no connection spiritually to having a super deep connection spiritually.
That's amazing. Like I can't even imagine. I mean, going from where you were, like you said, you had a 4-year meth habit, and you were just, at this really dark place. It was rock bottom. And then, the next day to being ready to take control of your life and follow a path. What was it like, that process alone, just making that transition? Was it like an overnight change? Or was it more like, a little bit here and there? Well, I mean, I'm curious.
Yeah, well, so I mean, the whole time I was, a junkie, a meth head, I essentially knew like what was waiting, like the change that was going to happen. And for me, like I didn't know how to live. So when someone tries to kill themselves, and this is a really important conversation to have, is when people feel suicidal, it's not that they want to die necessarily. In my case, it wasn't this. It's that I didn't know how to live. So stepping into this space of waking up that morning with oneness, like the information that was being channeled through me was just incredible. It was almost like a roadmap of how to get myself out of that situation. And from there, it began like the first thing I did was starting to remove toxins and chemicals from my life. Like I started with water, right? So I drink water out of a copper water bottle.
Nice.
Copper,
Nice.
yeah, copper infuses our water with lots of healthy things. So really looking at everything on a cellular copper, yeah, cool. Looking at things on a cellular level of the food we eat, the stuff we put on our skin. So toxins and chemicals was really my first step. I had gained a lot of weight. When you do meth long term, the cortisol, your hormones are so out of whack. So your body's creating so much serotonin, it's creating so much cortisol. So you gain a lot of weight. So really doing it in a healthy way and getting myself back to having good health. And then became a vegetarian, and like it's all been steps and phases. If I had known like the whole mountain that I was going to be climbing, I would have never done it. So I was really nicely eased into each step. And I am a seeker, so it's it's so intense in me to have to just keep like whittling away and seeing my stuff, where most people probably would have plateaued a while back, probably even before the plant medicine. And like awareness, I have awareness, I know who I am, like having healing and stuff. But for me, I just I almost want to like turn myself inside out to really remember who I've always been.
Yeah, I could totally relate to that process where, I mean, I don't know, this is my first time meeting you, but my story, I was deep into alcoholism and junk food and all these problems in my life. And I started making changes. I also went vegetarian, I went vegan, and I started drinking the filtered water with the good water, with the water can. I don't have copper, but I got this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
When people say plastic, like all of our thyroid issues are caused from plastic. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. No, we could go on for days.
I know. But it's interesting because the piece about this is I really believe that is the path, right? Like is for us to start to seeing the toxins and chemicals. Like I've been doing a lot of research on the thyroid. I have a lot of friends that are coming up with Hashimoto's and plastic. They say to that, the Truth About Thyroid documentary or whatever she called it. Thyroid is problem is a direct result from plastic, the chemicals in plastic. And BPA-free bottles are more dangerous than regular plastic because they have BPS in them. And we don't know that. So so it's like when we start looking at things on a cellular level like that, you could lose your mind.
Yeah, for sure. But it's like I love the process, like you said, of like picking yourself and seeing, okay, where can I improve here and there? Can I make a little change here so that I'm healthier, cleaner, happier, more productive, whatever it is. I just live a better life overall, right? So I'm always looking for that little shift. That's a great reason why I do this show, is because I interview great guests like yourself, Rhonda, and I get little ideas or little tips, or I get inspired, and I'm like, I could make a little change here. I could do something different. So there's something, we were talking a little bit about spirituality before the show, and I was telling you how for myself personally, spirituality has always been something that I've been kind of confused about. I grew up a French Catholic, so I was in the church my whole life, and I remember in grade 8 they told me I was gonna go to hell. Like straight up, I missed 1 week of church, and they said, you missed a week of church, you're gonna go to hell. I'm like, but like, can I make up? They're like, no, it's too late. And so ever since, I kind of resisted any idea of religion or spirituality, which are two different things. But I kind of felt they were the same at the time, and I'm still to this day. I feel much more spiritual. I meditate on a regular basis. I feel much more connected with myself and what I see around me. But what does spirituality mean to you? I'm curious about your journey stepping into that.
I don't really know your audience all that well, so I don't know how deep I can go. There's something called the topic of all topics, and it's been discussed and kind of hinted about through all of history, but nobody really wanted to just come out and talk about it, which a lot more people are today, because they would end up dead, or they would end up, somehow imprisoned or in a straitjacket in some mental institution. So as we're waking up, right, our world is waking up for a big reason, really to the truth. So religion, in my opinion, from my experience, has been something really used to control the people and to control us. We have incredible abilities as humans. I mean, if you look at how intricate our body is, and then you look at the social problems that we have as people, they don't match. They don't match. Like, we are in what they would call in the yugas. The yugas is like, they're different periods of time, and they go in like a cycle, and they just keep cycling. So the top is golden, there's silver, bronze, and we're in the Iron Age right now, which is, or the Kali period, and it's lowest consciousness. It's 25% consciousness. It's 38-year-old people that are grandparents. It's us having poisoned food and poisoned water. Our earth is in peril, right? So this stage that we're in, if you look at what's happening on a much larger scale in the universe, there's something really dark inhabiting our planet that most people don't really understand. So religion has really been used to kind of keep us in this container of like what it's supposed to be. We pray outside of ourselves rather than both. Like, we are divine. We are source. We are source's expression in every possible way. So understanding like when we pray outside of ourselves, we're giving our power away, when really like we can just simply connect within, connect with Mother Earth. So there's all these little things. But when you look at like the sacred geometry that's put into churches, when you look at the altar, what is it altering? Right? When you look, like, there's all of these things, and like where they strategically place their churches, and how the way some churches are created, it's so that it creates a certain harmonic, so it creates a certain experience within the church. Like, all of these things which we're figuring out along the way is really a measure of weighing, controlling people. So spirituality, on the other hand, is, I think when I first came out of my hell, I said I wanted to go as deep spiritually as I could, not having a clue what that meant. And I had a friend who's an amazing spiritual teacher, and he's like, why the hell would you want that? He's like, I don't think you have a clue what you're asking for. And what I find is, like, us thinking that enlightenment is about love and light, we are so wrong. Enlightenment is a shedding away of the untruths, and it's a very dark process, and it can be a very hard process. And it isn't about like just achieving, oh, I'm a meditator and everything's happy and I live in like happy and peace all the time. That's awesome, but that's a phase. That's a stage. And then you have to go through like learning the truth of life and stuff, which is a very interesting piece. So spirituality in my terms is something that I don't even know if we can really fully realize as humans yet. Like, I have people saying all the time that they're fully awake. I think that we're still all in the dreaming we're awake phase. I don't think we have a clue what it means to actually be awake, and to have the consciousness to levitate or to be at a frequency. Like, I work a lot with essential oils, and understanding that like rose has this incredible frequency, and when you ingest it and you diet it and you become part of it, you can take on a higher frequency and become yours. Or drinking out of copper is another thing to do. So there's so many things to learn about and understand, and not just like, oh, I'm a high vibing person. You don't really even know what that means. Redwood trees are one of the lowest frequencies on the planet, and it's a darker healing energy, but that's a really important energy too. So we have to be careful with the new age way of, I'm a high vibing, enlightened, awake kind of person, only focus on what you want to, only focus on what you want to attract, and use really careful with your language. That's spiritual bypassing. There's a big dark forest in the middle that we all have to go through to learn our lessons. Our shadow side is not meant to be pushed away or filled with light. Our shadow side is our teacher. It's meant to teach us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something that I've really had to come to grips with on my journey. Was like I was telling you, meditating all the time, just wanting to be happy, doing the best I can to be upbeat, positive, loving all the time. But I realized even just trying to keep that up is a struggle. Like, it's hard to try to be happy all the time. It's hard to try to be loving and peaceful and amazing all the time. But there's, I like how life has those bad days, and it has those negative, lower vibration energies. Because I feel it's like it's supposed to be a wave. It's supposed to be an experience, and part of just being at peace for me has just been accepting everything for just the way it is. Rather than saying, oh, I wish I was happier right now, or I wish I could, love a little bit more right now, or I wish this wouldn't happen. Just kind of accepting things. And I think that's a big part of me becoming more spiritual myself. What would you say for people who like myself, they just don't quite know where to start exactly. Maybe they've had some experience with religion. They know it's not their thing. Maybe they've found God, whatever God is for them, and they have
Mm-hmm.
that, but they still kind of feel disconnected or lost.
Well, I want to go back to what you said, and then I want to answer that question. You had said
Yeah.
that when you have a bad day or it's a negative day, like we're programmed to believe that having experiences where we don't feel that whoo is negative, and it's actually not. We are all plugged in to this grid, this cosmic grid. And if we're really here for source to express itself through all of us in all of these ways, something that we're taught in plant medicine is the ultimate surrender. So when you have a feeling like emotion come up, like sadness or grief, and you're like, okay, so grief is here and present. So if we don't like resist it, which is what we're taught to do, no, I have to make myself happy, or no, I'm going to go call somebody so I can distract myself, or no, I'm going to, do whatever. And you simply allow yourself to fold into your body for a minute. And you're like, okay, so sadness is here. I'm going to experience it for a minute. And then you embody yourself, which I don't know if you follow Philip Shepherd, but his work's amazing. He's a Canadian, and he's a national authority on embodiment. Teaches us how to get back in ourselves. So when we fold into ourselves and we're like, okay, and then you feel like a pain in your foot, and then you may feel something, and it's like, whew, this is heavy for a minute, and then you let it pass you. That feeling is meant to just simply go through us and move on. But we hold on to it. We pick out curtains with it. We marry it. And we make it be our identity. And we make it be like, oh no, I'm sad. I'm just so sad. I have to go tell everybody I'm sad. And like, it really, like the more we just allow ourselves to feel it, because that's what we're here to do, then, the easier it is to just allow those things to come by. And then for me, love and joy and all of these things are, in one brief second, it's like total like rock and ecstasy and the most massive grief and like every emotion in between in one moment. And when you can be in this spiritual path and you can be like, holy shit, I'm feeling all of these things right now at the same time and I'm okay. Like that is really a beautiful space to try and get into, because it's like all encompassing, right? So for people who are looking to really kind of step into this path, it doesn't really matter where your entry point is. The things that people buy or the things people are interested in are usually, I want to make lots of money because I want to be successful, because I've been taught that success is what I want. I want to live with purpose, or I want love, conscious relationship is really my jam. I love to talk about that. It doesn't matter where you come in, like you're going to do this work. But what's going to ultimately happen is you're going to look at, okay, so what are the things that are keeping me stuck? Like I am a perpetual codependent and constantly dating or in love with narcissistic people. So for me, healing that has been so pivotal. But what I had to look at was like the darkest of my dark through shamanic ceremony, and really start to peel back the layers and allow myself to feel the truth. So the best way to start with like a week of not lying. No white lies. No, I'm late in traffic. No, I'll be there in a few minutes. No, yeah, you look good in those jeans. None of that. And allow your body, because why we lie, why we tell those little lies, is because we don't want to feel the feelings that come with it. It isn't about wanting to save someone else's feelings. It isn't about, it's that your body doesn't want to feel the truth. So the best way to start this journey is to step into your truth, step into who you've always been, and start without lying.
Mm-hmm. That's really powerful. Lies do create a lot of problems too. I mean, first with yourself and resistance with yourself, and then that, seeps into everything else in your life. So there's really no good that comes from lying anyway. So it's a great answer. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Cool. So you were mentioning a lot about plants and plant medicine and stuff like that. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that? How does that help you along your path? Or how has that come to you along your journey?
So we really don't always think about it, but plants have spirits. They really are no different than humans. And some of us believe that they're sentient. They understand color, they know fear. They are actually a lot smarter than we think they are. Well, there are a lot of plants on this planet and trees and flowers that have incredible healing properties, but have a really great spirit. So, you could start with like a rhododendron. Rhododendron has amazing healing properties. There's a lot of beauty. There's a lot of things. And this is actually a very mild healer. People take flower essence. They ingest them. It's a very mild way. You can go, marijuana can be known as medicine if it's used correctly, right? Marijuana has an incredibly sticky spirit about her. So when you're working with her and you're trying to work with other stuff, she's pretty much going to dominate the situation. we advance to things like mushrooms, psilocybin. Mushrooms are incredible healers when you work with them as medicine. I'm not talking about going to a festival and partying with 20,000 people and picking up dark stuff. I'm talking about actually doing it like more in a ceremonial kind of space. And then there's more of the plant medicines like I'm talking about, which are a lot of the medicines I work with are from South America. In particular, there's one called ayahuasca, and she's a very powerful spirit. She has intelligence in her that is far beyond anything we can even understand as humans. So in Peru, there's a vine that grows, and then they add a bark and they make like this brew, and there's DMT in it. So it's an opportunity for us to pass through the wormhole and go into other dimensions. And she shows us things that we ask for. She shows us intentions. I've experienced what it's like to be my highest self. I've also experienced the deepest, darkest of my insides and what I needed to go through for my own work. You die many times in these ceremonies. Essentially, it's the ultimate surrender. You have to allow. It's very, very powerful medicine for people who are really looking for deep healing or truth, or are really like a seeker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
There's medicine. There's one called ibogaine or iboga, and it's from Africa. It's like the grandfather of these plants, and you can heal. And I use that word limitedly. I don't know if there's completely ever being healed, but there's healing. And I've seen people that are heroin addicts, severe alcoholics and stuff go into this medicine, walk out, and those pieces of them have really found deep healing. And my own addiction, I don't believe addiction is a disease. That's my own personal opinion. I believe it's a symptom of trauma. So when you let the trauma out of your body, you realize the things, you do the work, it seems as though the addiction heals.
Mm-hmm. So I've always been super interested in kind of natural healing and like how we could use plants and stuff. And I've never been like, I remember when I was a kid and my parents would be like, here, take this Tylenol or take this Advil. I'm just like, oh, like I don't want to take these drugs. But I've always been super interested in like our relationship with plants and our relationship with nature, and how, how before all these drugs and pharmaceuticals and all this stuff came along, how did we heal? How did we grow? What was our relationship with this plant? So why do you think today we have such a focus on pharmaceuticals and pills and surgeries and all these other things, rather than some of the other, natural healing things that we evolved with as a species?
Well, first, it's more expensive to try and heal people with plant medicine. It takes sometimes a little bit longer. So plant medicine is the medicine. Medicine we use today is only a couple of hundred, maybe 100 or so years old, where, the idea of aspirin, I believe it came from a willow for healing, for pain relief, right? So like looking at that, and I have a medicinal plant herbalist who makes me tinctures all the time. And he's like, oh, you have cramps. Here's cramp bark. I'm like, that's a thing, right? Mm-hmm. So really understand. Yeah, but you have beautiful medicines where you live, and I have a lot of beautiful medicines where I live in the forest. We have like 80 different medicines in our very cold climate. So the reason, like a lot of the synthetic parts of medicine, if there is still plant medicine in medicine, it would be like less than probably 2% or a point of a percent. You can't really take up medicine like a plant and put a patent on it. Yeah. So, right. So disease, I believe there's cures for cancer. I believe there's cures for all of these things, and most of it's in our food. But when you look at all the toxins and chemicals we have running through us, it's this perfect cycle to keep us sick, to keep us totally engrossed in our phones, to keep us completely distracted from our bodies. And we're so external. And when something goes wrong, we want a pill, we want something. And it's like that. Usually when you're sick, I have a client that I coached who went through cancer. And she went through cancer because she had really severe patterns in her life. Like it was a spiritual element as to why she got cancer, right? And there's like high alkaline diets and all of these things that we've never really been taught. help keep us, our bodies clean and help keep, so the knowledge has been there. It's just there's a lot of conspiracy theory labels put on everything, and that term was coined to keep it weird and to keep us to think it's something bad and wrong, right?
I
But
like weird.
I like, oh, thank God, it's like I'm weird, please know that I'm weird.
Yeah, yeah.
But pharmaceutical companies, they make a lot of money on chemo. They make a lot of money on radiation. They make a lot of money on all the medicines. And when you look at how over medicated we are, and if we could go into vaccines, which is a whole, I mean, there's so many levels of this, right?
Hmm.
It's like, you need to, what are you eating? What are you drinking? What are you putting on your body is where you have to start with all of this, because it's overwhelming.
It's really everywhere. Like you were talking about, how we get disease or how we get, a lot cancer is such a problem in today's society. But and I feel like a lot of it is it's lifestyle driven. I mean, there's stuff in our water, there's stuff in our food, there's stuff in the air, there's stuff in our lifestyle. Just the way we sit around all day, or smoking or drinking, or watching TV or technology all the time. There's all these things that I think really add up to create the, like you said, the perfect storm, for disease to grow and for disease to get rooted in what we do. And so, yeah, I think it's a powerful practice for anybody to look at the little things that they have in their life and make small changes. Like for me, just recently I started fasting. Like every Sunday I go on a water fast. It's been a great process for me. It really helps me kind of reset my whole, like reset the whole week. If I get in a weird schedule or something, I fast on Sunday, I feel great, I feel good. But I really learned how bad tap water was, because I was fasting. I was drinking just plain tap water, and I didn't realize there's anything wrong with tap water. But because I was fasting, everything was on such an extreme. And so the next week, I got a different kind of water. I went and got filtered reverse osmosis water, and I decided, okay, I'm going to fast with this instead. And I did. And it was such a crazy, even just that one small change from tap water to filtered water was such a huge shift in my life. And like you said, drinking instead of out of plastic, drinking out of, copper. I just got steel here, or even glass.
Or a mason jar. Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be like it can be. And I do want to comment on something you said about smoking. The actual act of smoking is a really beautiful act. Like our need to smoke and pull something is actually us trying to heal our bodies. Tobacco is one of the most healing and protective plants on the planet. So mapacho, or like a real clean tobacco, you could actually, like, if you're feeling tormented by the energies and you're feeling bad, you can throw like 2 tobacco leaves in a bathtub and go get in it, and it's really protecting for you. So when people go to smoke, they're actually trying to protect themselves from probably something inside of them that's feeling very heavy. It's just that now everything's laced with so much stuff. Same with alcohol. It used to be called spirits. There was spirit in it. It was actually healing in it. But now it's like so corporate, and it's just so corporate in everything that they do, that they've really taken all of that out of it. And it's really like the worst thing on the planet.
Yeah, I think there's just so much industry influence in all these areas, in healing, in our lifestyle, in cigarettes and alcohol, in our food, in our water, everything. There's so much industry influence. And industry isn't necessarily bad, but when it becomes driven by profits and stuff like that, that's where we get a lot of the, big problems we have in today's society. And, growing up, I always kind of just believed everything I was told. Okay, I saw it on TV, I better believe it. Oh, my parents told me, I better believe it. Oh, I heard it from school or from the government or whatever, I better believe it. But now that we have the internet, it's so beautiful. You could get an opinion here, and you could go the complete opposite direction and get new information, and then you can make a decision. Oh, sorry, you can make a decision for yourself, but
Mm-hmm.
what makes the most sense for you and for your life. And so I think it's really beautiful, and that's how we could start to connect more with ourselves, with each other, with the planet, with our spirituality, and live greater lives. Yeah.
Well,
So
discernment, we're not taught discernment. Like, discernment
yeah.
is interesting. It's like, question everything. If somebody
Mhm.
tells you something, like a lot of people want to do Reiki on me, and I'm like, I really appreciate that, but I don't know where you're pulling your higher like energy from. I'm not into I don't want to say store bought, because that's very judgment. I'm not into um buying into anything. Like, it's very unique for me, and it can almost so much so I can't even put words to it. It's more of like a frequency. It's just something that I feel. And they're like, no, but I'm just a channel. You're pulling from through me, right? And I'm like, I don't know enough, even where I'm at. I don't know enough to know what I'm pulling from you or pulling through you. And I don't know if I'm grabbing some of your stuff as I'm pulling through you. And like, we are so trusting with our energy. We're so trusting in all of these elements. Like, Okay, yeah, heal me. If anyone says that they can heal you, run away from them. Because a healer means that you are doing your own work and stepping through your own crap so that you can step into being your own healer. We have a lot of teachers along the way that show us things that we need to do for ourselves, but no one is going to heal you. You are meant to heal yourself.
That is beautiful. Actually, I love what you just said there. Guys, let's say that one more time, Rhonda. What's that?
Yeah, no one is going to heal you. You are meant to heal yourself. And yes, we need help learning how to do that,
Mhm.
but the right teachers, you have to really be careful. And usually you'll end up outgrowing your teachers and you'll move on to a new. But yeah, run away from anyone who calls himself a guru or a master or any of these things, because I mean, I realize in some traditions, maybe Chinese traditions or Bagua or different things where they may be called a master, but a true master doesn't call himself a master. A shaman doesn't really call themselves a shaman. And there's all these people coining themselves as shamans right now. You know, it's unless you've done like the ritual, you've gone to the tribe where, and it's a shaman is just a name that certain tribe people call that level of healer, that level of person. There are
Mm.
Pacos, there are curanderos, there are lots of different names for it. And if someone's just coining themselves as a shaman, be very careful. And, there are places out there, especially in America, that you can do plant medicine. You're going to hear about retreats and stuff. Be very, very, very careful. There is one place in America that I would do this work. And there's probably one or maybe two places in all of Peru that I would actually do this work, because there's dark magic. There is black magic out there that we don't even understand. And if you're going in and sitting with a shaman who hasn't really integrated their darkness and they really haven't done their stuff, they're not able to protect you from what needs to be happening as you do this work. So, be very careful and have support. Have
Mhm.
support, have a coach, and don't just, it's not love and light, have a coach, be really careful, have the support as you walk this path of spirituality, because I assure you, it is nothing what I thought it was going to be. And it's a hell of a lot scarier, to be honest, than I ever thought it was going to be. But it's also quite, it's quite amazing, which I didn't really expect that piece either.
Totally worth it, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, completely.
Wonderful. Well, Rhonda, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you, just you being super open and vulnerable, sharing your story, and also sharing some of the things that you truly believe in and are passionate about. I'm super passionate about these kind of things as well. Anything that could help us improve our lives, improve the connection we have with ourselves or with, the universe, with each other, whatever. I find a beautiful thing. Is there any kind of last words you'd like to say to the audience, and where could they find you if they'd love to connect with you?
Yeah, you can find me at cosmicsmith.com. You can also check out my podcast at Cosmic Smith Radio. And if I had anything to say to you, it would be this. It would be, you are not meant to live as this projected version of you that you think everyone else wants you to be. There's like the person that you are when you dance around in your underwear by yourself and you're crazy and like you're real and you use real language and you like, that is who we want to know. And
Mhm.
it takes a lot of growth to get there, but the only way to do it is to step into your truth and to start to be honest with yourself. So we're waiting for you.
Love it, guys. So make sure you guys go connect with Rhonda. She's really, I could tell. I mean, we've only been chatting for a half hour here, but she's got so much to say. And I'd love to connect with her again sometime. So make sure you guys get a hold of her. And if you guys want to support what we're doing at Implicit, you could obviously follow, like, share, comment, share it with a friend if you thought this was super interesting. Or you could support us at patreon.com/implicit. That's where all the cool stuff's happening. So that's all I got for you, Rhonda. Peace.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much for
Thank
the
you so
space.
much.
Peace.
See ya.